South Korea commemorated the first anniversary of the historic first encounter between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un over the weekend by holding a special event at the border village of Panmunjeom. But it was a one-sided celebration as there were no participation from the north. With the two Koreas in the midst of a nuclear impasse, finding a solution appears to be becoming increasingly complicated, with other regional players also making fresh moves. Let's discuss the issue further with Dr. Bong Young-shik of the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies, who now joins us in the studio. Thank you for coming in today.
Very pleased to be here.
So South Korea held a special event over the weekend to mark the first anniversary of the historic Panmunjeom summit, but there was no word from North Korea about the event, let alone any participation. How do you assess the developments, or lack of, surrounding this Panmunjeom summit anniversary?
I think the absence of any response, positive ones from Pyongyang, is a clear evidence that the North Korean leadership is still pretty much in the process of observing the shock wave of the fallout of the Hanoi summit meeting between North Korea and the United States in late February. And I think this is a strategic mistake for the part of the Kim Jong-un leadership in North Korea, because South Korea in itself may not give North Korea everything it wants, especially the sanction relief that is sought at the Hanoi summit meeting with the US President Donald Trump. But dismissing South Korea only undermines North Korea's own leverage upon the United States and other countries, because it has been a long Moon Jae-in government of South Korea that has been working as an objective mediator or the booster of meaningful and productive conversation and negotiation between North Korea and the United States. So by dissing Moon Jae-in government of South Korea after 1 year of the historic event, the Panmunjeom Declaration last year on April 27th, basically North Korean leadership fails to appreciate the potential positive role that can be played by the South Korean government between North Korea and the United States. I can understand the North Korean leadership must have been really disappointed by Trump administration's refusal to agree on massive economic sanction reliefs. But at the same time, if North Korea wants to rebuild the momentum for another round of meaningful negotiations with the United States, I mean, it helps. It is useful for North Korean leadership to have South Korean government on board. But by ignoring South Korea as irrelevant to the negotiation between North Korea and the United States, North Korean leadership basically undermines its own credibility. North Korea will not enhance its image that as a system that can be credible, because North Korean leadership has not been really faithfully carrying out the agreements forged with the Moon Jae-in government through 3 major inter-Korean summit meetings, like the measures to reduce military tensions on the demilitarized zone and the people-to-people exchange and other issues. So not fulfilling these steps agreed between the two Koreas, the rest of the world is watching, and they would conclude that, see, North Korean leadership cannot be trusted, because if North Korean leadership does not carry out those small but important steps with South Korea, then how can you trust the North Korean leadership is going to respect any agreements made by the rest of the world? So all these absence of trust and the goodwill gesture on the anniversary of the Panmunjeom summit meeting, April last year, is only undermining North Korea's own bargaining leverage.
So it's not a smart strategy for North Korea
not at all.
To stay unresponsive to South Korea?
It seems like just the emotional, pent-up emotional expression of a frustration.
North Korea has criticized the U.S., saying Washington stands in the way of inter-Korean relations, while also once again slamming the South Korea-U.S. joint military drills. It appears North Korea is upping its rhetoric against the U.S. again. Your thoughts?
Once again, this is a counterproductive measure on the side of Pyongyang because we all know that despite concerns expressed by rather conservative voices in the South Korean society, United States and South Korea did cancel 3 major annual, massive military exercises as an incentive to induce meaningful change of behavior on the part of North Korea. But now Pyongyang is taking issue at very downscaled military exercise between the United States and South Korea. Then it is not going to get any support from the rest of the world, even China, because the current situation is not as bad for China as it is for North Korea, because China has been maintaining 2 major arguments for settling a set of major issues on the Korean Peninsula. One idea proposed by China was simultaneous suspension by North Korea and the United States. North Korea suspends its missile test and nuclear test, and the United States and South Korea would suspend its military exercises, which has been criticized by North Korea as an outright act of aggression and threat. So current situation, in the absence of major annual military exercises by United States stationing South Korea and South Korean military, and North Korea not taking any additional missile and nuclear test. This is a rather reasonably satisfactory situation, not only for the United States, South Korea, but also China. So criticizing joint military exercises by United States and South Korea is not going to get any compassionate and supportive response from Beijing either.
Then what do you make of the 3 traditional allies, North Korea, China, and Russia, cozying up again recently? Apparently, an inter-Korean summit doesn't seem to be North Korea's top priority at the moment.
It seems like Kim Jong-un is knocking every door, except for the door already opened by Moon Jae-in government of South Korea in search for any possible breakthrough from the fallout of the Hanoi summit meeting in February. But I think this attempt is inherently limited in terms of enhancing the chance for Kim Jong-un leadership to get what it wants, major sanction reliefs. Because Russia must be interested in participating in massive railroad reconnection project and the transcontinental pipeline projects. But as long as North Korea remains under the very tough economic sanctions, then all these ambitious economic joint projects will not take off. So you can't really get any detour or shortcut. You have to deal with these issues with economic sanctions on North Korea. Of course, Russia would be interested in resumption of the 6-party talks so that Russia's voice will be also counted in engaging with North Korea, not just the United States in unilateral manner. But the argument rendered by Vladimir Putin, Russian president, that we need to resume 6-party talks so that we can give Pyongyang security assurance, this is a rather weak argument, considering the fact that the same thing already took place in 2005 as a part of the so-called September 19th joint statement of the 6-party talks. If you read back the September 19th agreement of the 6-party talks of 2005, there is a very clear indication and assurance that United States does not harbor any nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula, and United States has no intention to invade North Korea either with conventional weapons or nuclear weapons. So there was a maximum security assurance that United States and other countries can give to Pyongyang. So if there will be another 6-party talks taking place, but North Korea can only get that kind of security assurance that already was given to North Korea in 2005, and North Korea, by the way, rejected it as insufficient.
As you've mentioned, Russian President Putin has hinted that Russia wants to be back in the game by raising the possibility of the resumption of the six-party talks. But top North Korea-U.S. negotiator John Bolton stated that six-party talks are not Washington's preferred way of denuclearizing North Korea. And how do you analyze this opposing stances of the U.S. and Russia on six-party talks?
Well, Mr. John Bolton did not flat reject the idea of resuming six-party talks. He said that it's not one of the preferred mechanisms for the United States to effectively engage in North Korea for the purpose of final and fully verified denuclearization, because we have bought this horse many times over in the past, and the end results were not really in line with the expectations of all participants in the six-party talks. So why do we need to try something that does not have any solid, track record of success in the past? But John Bolton also shows an element of pragmatism, that he does not really 100% oppose the idea of resuming six-party talks, as long as any mechanism, including resumption of six-party talks, would, help North Korean leadership move inch closer to final and fully verified denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. Then United States would be very amenable to the idea. But there has not been any concrete evidence that resumption of six-party talks will result the outcomes that will be in line with the expectation of the Trump administration.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has reportedly said he will help in materializing a North Korea-Japan summit so that the two sides can have a chance to discuss the issue of Japanese abductees in North Korea. What are the chances of Kim Jong-un and Shinzo Abe actually sitting down for talks? I can't picture those two together in one room.
Why not? Extend your realm of imagination. Of course, Japan has been regarded as a main enemy for North Korean leadership, not just these days, but throughout history, right? But at the same time, North Korean situation is quite desperate. So Japan has been looming larger and larger as unexpected but reliable source of help for Kim Jong-un leadership of North Korea, especially in the aftermath of Hanoi summit meeting. What North Korea desperately needs today? Money, cash, right? Massive inter-Korean economic projects or massive economic projects with Russia sound really nice, but North Korean economy is in a critical situation, demanding very immediate, substantial help from somewhere, and China cannot give that help because China is afraid of being criticized by the United States as a willful enabler of North Korea's adamant behavior. And China has been engaged in its own tough trade war with the United States. So China being identified as the backer of North Korea will not be in the interest of the Xi Jinping government so far. And Russia cannot really render any help when it comes to saving North Korea's economy. The volume of annual trade between Russia and North Korea is limited to 100 million US dollars a year, which is only 1/70 of the trade volume between China and North Korea. And South Korea cannot deviate from the existing economic sanction regime because of its participation in denuclearization effort led by its ally, the United States. So the hope is only Japan. And Japan will be the source of massive economic assistance and reparation. We remember that in 2002, then Japan's Prime Minister Koizumi and then Chairman Kim Jong-il agreed in Pyongyang Declaration that both countries agreed to settle the past issues by economic arrangements. This is a replication of the formula used by South Korea under Park Chung-hee government and Japan in 1965. Settling historical issues by economic arrangements, meaning that North Korea is amenable to receiving massive amount of money in the form of economic reparation. to move forward to diplomatic normalization between the two countries. So you never know whether Abe Shinzo is going to sit down with Chairman Kim Jong-un and in exchange for North Korea agreeing to settle the abduction issues and diplomatic normalization, and Japan may try to persuade Trump administration of the United States for economic engagement with North Korea.
I'm afraid that is all the time we have for you today. Dr. Bong, thank you so much for your insights.
You're welcome.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth from all of us here at Arirang. Thank you for watching.